Okay, this is the review for the quiz over arithmetic sequences. So I'm not going to talk about the vocabulary section. If you just want to pause your video and check your answers, they're here. Otherwise, we'll go straight to number 2. List the first 5 terms of the given sequence, 2 over 3n plus 1. This is a explicit formula where the term value depends on the term number. So if you're trying to find the first term, you plug in 1. To find the second term, you plug in 2. To find the third term, you plug in 3, so forth and so on. So that's going to look like this. I plugged in 1 for n for the first term, 2 for n, 3, 4, and 5. And when you're showing work on your quiz, at a minimum, I just want to see this step where you plug in the value, and then you can do the rest of the math either mentally or with a calculator. So the denominator here, we're going to have 3 plus 1, which is 4, so 2/4 is 1/2. 2 over 6 plus 1, which is 7. 2 over 9 plus 1, which is 10. 2 over 12 plus 1, and 2 over 15 plus 1. And then simplify anything that you can. So we had already 1/2 for the first term, 2/7, 2/10 becomes 1/5, 2/13, and 2/16 becomes 1/8. For this next problem, we're given a sequence and we need to tell what type, meaning is it arithmetic or is it geometric? And then once we've decided what that is, we'll tell what the common difference or ratio is. So pause the video, look at that sequence, try and figure out what the pattern between the numbers is. Hopefully you discovered that the pattern is plus 12 each time. So that means this is an arithmetic sequence. And positive 12 is the common difference, and we call that D. So on the back we have this sequence. Pause your video for a moment and just decide if it's arithmetic or geometric. Okay, hopefully you figured out that it's geometric. That's where we multiply or divide by the same thing over and over. So to figure out, or I should say it's geometric, so it's going to have a common ratio, R. To figure out what that is, you take any term and divide it by the previous term. I'm going to go with these two since they're smaller and therefore presumably easier to work with. So negative 45 over negative 180, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 2 45s is 90, so 4 45s is 180. So this simplifies to 1/4. That's my R value. So now it's asking me to find an explicit, or to write an explicit formula and a recursive. Explicit formulas depend on n, which is the term number. So you'll be plugging in 1 or 2 or 3 to get your answer. Recursive depends on previous terms. So this is where you'll use a sub n minus 1 for the first previous term, a sub n minus 2 for the second previous term, in case you're using more than one term to get the next term. So we are multiplying by 1/4 each time. So an explicit version would be, what I'm going to do is use our explicit formula to generate that. So let me go up here some. It's all over the place. So A sub n equals A sub 1, which was negative 2,880, times r, which we already determined is 1/4, to the n minus 1. Oh, I could have written that right here. I thought I was going to have more work. Okay. So then a recursive one is where we use this notation. So we're taking the previous term and multiplying by 1/4. So that's 1/4 times A sub n minus 1. But in this situation, you have to define a beginning term. So you have to have somewhere to start with. So we'll say we'll start at A1 is negative 2,880. For number 5 right here, we have this formula. We're being asked to find the 17th term, so we'll just plug in 17. So A sub 17 equals 17 minus 2 over 17. We'll make a common denominator of 17. So rewriting this with a denominator of 17 means multiplying the top by 17, which is 289. Math in the numerators gives me 287. For this problem, we're being asked to find the indicated term. So first we need to decide if it's arithmetic or geometric. Then we need to write our formula. Then we need to use the formula to find this term. So take a minute, pause, and just try to figure out the pattern here. Hopefully you discovered that it's minus 4 each time. So since it's a subtraction each time, this is arithmetic sequence. So D is negative 4. So I'm going to use the general formula for arithmetic sequences. So we're here. So AN equals A1, which is 7, plus D, which is negative 4, times n minus 1. And now we're being asked to find this term, the 52nd term. So I can go ahead and plug in 52 for the n. Math happens, and we get negative 197. Order of operations, remember to do your multiplication, your parentheses, multiplication, and then add 7 at the end. And then on this last problem, we know this is talking about an arithmetic sequence because it gives me D. This right here is supposed to be A sub 1, not 1A. So I'm going to just write my general formula here. I'm going to plug in the stuff that I already know. So A1 is 29, so I'm going to put that here. D is 7. And I'm being asked to find A36. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 36 for the n. And math ensues, and I get 274. And one thing I want to tell you about the quiz, there were several problems with more fraction math than the review had. Remember, if you're dealing with a situation, okay, this is probably not going to be a real thing, I'm just making it up. Let's say you had something like this and you were trying to figure out what the pattern was. Rewrite everything so that it has a common denominator first. It's much easier to compare the numbers together when you've rewritten. Like 4/5, if I want to rewrite everything with a denominator of 15, for example, I'd multiply this by 5 over 5, this one by 3 over 3, this one by 5 over 5, and then once the denominators are all the same, it's easier to see if there's a pattern or not in the rest of the problem. So that's just a hint I have. When working with fractions, put everything with a common denominator first, rewrite them, then try to find your pattern.